Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Jurassic World Evolution 3 video where we're going to be discussing the updates to the database. Now, I wasn't able to cover last week's as I was very busy writing reports. If you're in university right now, you can believe what I'm saying. But yeah, so I wasn't able to cover the animals that were revealed last time. So today I'm also going to cover those first and then get on to the species that were revealed today. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first species from last week that was revealed was the Pachycephalosaurus, which we did see in the global campaign feature focus. So Pachycephalosaurus was originally discovered in the game as a statue, but now we've got the list in the game. We also got the confirmation of Edmontosaurus, so a returning species from the first two games, and one that has stood the test of time, I'd say. Being a species that was from the Jurassic World website, now here with a male, female and adorable little baby. So the male of course has the much more brightly coloured head and also a much larger crest than before, or comb I think it's sometimes called, and then the female having a much smaller one. Now I know a few people did want the female to lack the crest altogether, just so we could have possibly an accurate Edmontosaurus from the website, because that one from the website looked to have been an ectons rather than regalis, which is what we have here. But you can't have everything. But then again, it's pretty cool to just see Edmontosaurus being brought back in a new form. We also have Baryonyx that was properly revealed, with the baby really resembling the one that was seen in Jurassic World Dominion, just lacking the robot arm of course. The male seems to be, who is on the right, seems to be a little bit bulkier and may actually have a little bit more of a pouch at the bottom of his throat there. Could do, and a much more much brighter pattern, I'd say. Then the species that got the most talk is Dimetrodon, our second therapsid, or no, synapsid. I keep getting them mixed up. It's very hard to remember sometimes. But yeah, Dimetrodon is back, sporting its Jurassic World Dominion form, with a baby that looks like an alien dog, kind of. Like, it's still very cute. Like, those massive eyes are truly endearing. But it's great to see Dimetrodon being brought back here. We have the male on the right, who has what looks to be a taller sail, as well as a slightly different pattern with the with the coloration of the back sort of creeping up the sail towards the top, and yeah, looking very cool. We also had Kronosaurus returning from the early Cretaceous pack from the last game, sporting its very Walking with Dinosaurs like Pleurodon-esque appearance. So the male looks to be the one on the left this time, although it could also be the one on the right. It's hard to tell sometimes, but I think it might be the one on the right. With slightly more bulk, but also just filled in patterns, with the female having like more outlines than filled spots and stripes. And then the baby is a little rotund fella, this tiny head and this massive body. It's certainly interesting to look at, but he's still cute and derpy as all. We also got Dilophosaurus revealed for the second time. So Dilophosaurus had been revealed previously in some bonus footage from, I think it was a BBC documentary that was covering Evolution 3 in a brief moment. But yeah, we get to see Dilophosaurus here, with the male seems to be the one on the left and the female on the right, with the female lacking the pattern on the crest, on the frill I mean, and also having smaller crests on the head. Now it's interesting because the one on the left is very clearly the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus, which in that case were all females. So I don't really know how it's going to work there, but you know, it's still cool. And the baby looking directly at the screen. We also have Giganspinosaurus, which was a surprise for many, myself included, but honestly not that bad. Like, it's still a cool species on its own. Like, those massive shoulder spikes really do come through on the male, and the start of what will one day become that defense on the little baby, who is a little chunker. sort of reminding me of Spike from The Land Before Time. But yeah, the male actually does look really cool with his pattern. And a species that I share much of the community's somewhat disdain for is Archaeornithomimus. Now, I know Archie is some people's favourites, I will not deny that, but it really just isn't the most exciting animal out there when compared to all the rest. Like those tiny little arms compared to the big body, the proportions are kind of a little all over the place. It would have certainly benefited from like a redesign to have some feathers put on it, maybe slightly longer forearms and a different head, but you know, it's Frontier's original design, so I guess it can just be kept. But the baby almost reminds me of some old depictions of Troodon, a little bit, and the male looks to be the one on the right with much more bright colours. We also had our hybrid of that week, the Stegoceratops, revealed, sporting the same design as before, somewhat unfortunately, but either way, it's good to have it back. We also have the Deluxe Edition's Thanatos Dracon, which is returning from Evolution 2, with the male looking to be the one that's in the sky, with a bit of red towards the back of the crest there. It's going to be good to actually get a good look at some of these animals side by side, even though you can technically get that here, but some animals, the dimorphism is so subtle that it is hard to tell. We did also get a picture of the baby ichthyosaurs swimming through their lagoon, looking absolutely adorable as always. But yeah, that was pretty much all on the side of that. Now moving on to this week's reveals, we have Acrocanthosaurus first up. So Acrocanthosaurus returning from the last game, sporting its notorious chunky design, which has translated beautifully into the little baby as well. And the male does actually look to have a slightly higher spine than the female on the left, which is pretty cool because it is the high-spined lizard after all. So it's good to see that it's got a different pattern, of course, but also just really leaning into what it's named after. Our hybrid for this week was the Spinoceratops, lifted from Camp Cretaceous with Angel and Rebel, with this pattern here looking somewhat familiar from the last game, but yeah, like all the hybrids, doesn't have a male, doesn't have juveniles, but who knows, that could be something that's added in the future, if enough request is, well, requested. But yeah, looking cool as always. This will also be an omnivore, so it'll be able to eat both plants and the piscivore feeder. I'm curious as to whether this will be one of the species that can actually swim to hunt fish naturally. I don't know if it would be, but it would be really cool and unique if it did. We also had the return of Dryosaurus, a very popular ornithischian dinosaur that certainly fills habitats nicely. It's a nice understory to much larger animals. So really nice to just have smaller animals running around in habitats of larger ones. And Dryosaurus is really the only dinosaur of its particular look. But yeah, it's very popular and might actually be in the runnings for having the cutest baby. Then we have Coelophysis, one of the only returning dinosaurs from the base game of Evolution 2. Looking cool as always. It's nice that we're getting some Triassic representation here, so I think this is our only Triassic animal right now, at least from these reveals, but hopefully, fingers crossed, Shonisaurus makes it in as well. But something interesting I noticed about the male on the right is that he actually has a little bit of a quill or scale that's like a spike scale on his head that might run down just a little bit back at the back of his head. I only noticed this at a passing glance when the tail of the female flicked behind his head. But yeah, he might actually have a little bit more to him than meets the eye. A dinosaur that made me very happy to see return is Muttaburrasaurus. So this is Australia's most famous dinosaur, being one of the first discovered actually. And yeah, it's fairly unique compared to the other ornithopods in the game. given that it is largely bipedal, really only going on all fours when it's drinking or eating. But other than that, it's a pretty cool animal. Nice to see the male having a much larger nasal cavity. I don't know whether it will reverberate with their calls, but it would be really cool if it did. But yeah, it's certainly one of those sort of species that is sort of left in the background that is actually really good when you give it a chance. Chasmosaurus too sort of falls into that category as well. It is a very famous ceratopsian. I've actually seen a skeleton of a Chasmosaurus before, but they're very cool, very colourful. Probably one of the most colourful ceratopsians next to Lokiceratops. And I saw the baby and immediately just thought of Dinotopia. For those who watched that, I think the baby Chasmosaur in that was called 26, and yeah, she was very endearing and part of my childhood, that's for sure. So it's really cool that we're going to be able to somewhat recreate Dinotopia now, and thanks to modular building we might be able to recreate a lot of the sets. It'd be really, really cool. But yeah, Chasmosaurus is returning and certainly is not disappointing in the slightest for me. Another species that we already have seen before is Geosternbergia, with the male having a much larger crest than the female, and the baby having a greatly reduced and developing crest. But this particular one almost reminds you of some of the slightly of the concept design for the Geosternbergia for the Lost World, where they had a largely blue coloration. I'm sure you'd be able to actually make that Geosternbergia and with a yellow crest. Who knows, we'll have to wait and see when we get our hands on the game. The animal of the day though is Megalodon, which we already knew was coming back thanks to initially statues part of the Clark County building set that's coming in the deluxe edition, and also having seen it in one of the feature focuses. But now it has also received a species showcase, or dinosaur showcase it's called, yet this is very clearly not a dinosaur. But even still, it's very cool to see Megalodon getting some good spotlight, and the adorable yet still frankly terrifying baby as well, who would be about the size of a regular great white shark compared to the adult, who is about the size of a whale. And then a species that I spotted, or someone in my comments actually spotted, I'm sorry that I've lost the comment, but yeah, they spotted a hadrosaur statue in the background of one of the feature focuses, and yeah, I had a look myself, and yeah, noticed it, and it really did have a resemblance to Maiasaura. And clearly Maiasaura is in the game, so that very well could have been what the statue was. So yeah, Maiasaura is coming back. I know it's not everyone's favourite, but honestly the male is kind of a big improvement on the model. The beak isn't quite as large. I mean, still is, but doesn't make as much of the snout. And the snout is also more rounded too, so sort of leaning into some of the current understanding of Maiasaura in a way. But yeah, I kind of think the male is a bit more of an improvement on the Maiasaura design. You've also got a raised ridge at the back of the skull there. But yeah, he's also very bright and colourful, and it has a bit of a stripe coming down from the face, so that might actually be able to be made quite brightly coloured. So who knows, we could actually have one of the next best hadrosaurs on our hands, and it goes from being what most people's pick for worst. Our last confirmed species of the day is Protoceratops. So Protoceratops is a new species coming in the deluxe edition alongside Guanlong, Thanatos Dracon, and Concavenator, who we should be seeing next week probably, with its quills on the tail and the adorable little baby having a little dust bath animation in the front. But yeah, it's a very cool species. I can't wait to see more of it. I am very curious as to whether it will be a similar size, or at least big enough to fight Velociraptor. It would be really cool if it was, so that you can recreate the fighting dinosaurs fossil, which is what has made Protoceratops and Velociraptor stars of the modern day. And so with these species, that brings our total to 72. So with all these species, Yutyrannus at 56 it's definitely Yutyrannus, the mystery dinosaur. Like, I am 100% sure it's Yutyrannus. I have no doubt in my mind. So we have 72 species, 14 slots to go. So this list, of course, contains the deluxe edition animals as well, and all the hybrids. So we have 14 slots remaining. What could those 14 animals be? Well, I have an idea of how we can try and sort of narrow it down. So we're going to play Jurassic World Evolution 3 bingo, basically. So I've brought together a selection of about 24 species, and we'll see which ones make it in. So around the edge is sort of the canon species. So we have Therizinosaurus, Pyroraptor, Oviraptor, Mamenchisaurus, Tarbosaurus, Oranosaurus, Kentrosaurus, Monolophosaurus, Nothosaurus, Metriacanthosaurus, Segisaurus, Proceratosaurus, Herrerasaurus, Styracosaurus, Euoplocephalus, and then we get into some of these species from Evolution 2 that I wouldn't mind seeing come back. Minmi, Dinochirus, Gigantoraptor, Sinosauropteryx, Archelon, Shonisaurus, Styxosaurus, Sungaripterus, which could be coming back because there was a skull on one of the frames of the gameplay trailer. Damn it. And Australopithecus. So these species are what I want personally. Now, Pachyrhinosaurus, Majungasaurus, and Suchomimus, of course, aren't here because I do feel like they will be saved for a Chaos Theory DLC. But these species in particular, I think, stand a fairly good chance. So Therizinosaurus, Pyroraptor, and Oviraptor, and Mamenchisaurus are all movie species, of course, so they're bound to make it in. The Camp Cretaceous species are a little bit more speculative, but given Camp Cretaceous has been around for a hot minute now, about as long as Dominion, well, a little bit longer even, it certainly stands a chance of just having the species that were in that show just brought in at launch, and honestly, I kind of prefer that. And then we have some of the sort of species that are not necessarily, that weren't seen on screen, but were somewhat present in the parks. So Metriacanthosaurus was in both Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Stegosaurus, Jurassic Park. Proceratosaurus and Herrerasaurus, also Jurassic Park. Styracosaurus was in some Camp Cretaceous concept art, but was also part of the Jurassic Park novel. Euoplocephalus, also part of the novel, and was supposedly on Isla Nublar during Jurassic World as well. And then we have some of the DLC animals from the last game. So Dinochirus, Gigantoraptor in particular, are so unique that I think they should definitely make it back. Sinosauropteryx, just because it looks like a red panda, so better reason than any. Archelon and Shonisaurus are beautiful animals in Jurassic World Evolution 2, with Archelon in particular being the most unique, as it has the ability to go up onto the rock platform, which Nothosaurus can as well, but in this case we don't have any other turtles. Shonisaurus is a giant ichthyosaur, but had easily some of the best patterns and colours of any of the animals in the game. Styxosaurus had a fairly inspired design, with some bioluminescence thrown into the mix as well. Sungaripterus is a fairly well-known pterosaur, and sort of one of those classic pterosaurs that you bring up when you're trying to show pterosaur diversity in their skull shapes. Minmi is another Australian animal, and also very adorable, so seeing a baby Minmi in the game would be heartbreaking, I'd say. And Australopithecus is another very famous Australian species that is also our only Megaraptoran, so if it didn't make it in, I wouldn't be necessarily surprised, but it would also be slightly disappointing if it didn't. But that's just my list. Your list might be a little bit different to mine, but yeah, that's basically, we're going to tick this off next week, see which species from it are revealed or not. And then all the way up to release, we'll see how many of these species made it in at launch. And yeah, I mean, I'm not holding my hopes out for Styracosaurus and Euoplocephalus, though it is certainly possible they could be. Proceratosaurus is very similar to Guanlong and Monolophosaurus. So I don't really think it's necessary, given it has some better alternatives, I'd say. Herrerasaurus, though, I would really like for it to come back, because it is one of our only Triassic animals. But yeah, let me know what you think. But that is all for this video. We had a look at the updated database, updated the roster, and also played a little bit of bingo. So yeah, we'll see how many of those species get ticked off and which ones do not. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one.